Ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoiners, pre-coiners, no-coiners, and shit-coiners, welcome to Swan Lounge, a weekly show in which you get to hang out with the Swan team and some of our friends from the amazing world of Bitcoin. We do this show every Friday, and it's called Swan Lounge because, we're lounging. Unlike our more serious show, Swan Signal Live, which you should watch every single week, Swan Lounge is about kicking it with our friends. We talk about the week's biggest events in Bitcoin, and we just have fun. And we'd like to work in lots of comments from the chat, so drop them in there, drop some questions for us too. But before we dive in, I have a few very important business items to bring up. We're doing something that I think is pretty darn cool. We're giving away Jan's book, Inventing Bitcoin, for free in an effort to spread Bitcoin knowledge. You can go to swanbitcoin.com/freebook. One second, I've got the link right here. I'm going to put it up here with our fancy little producing thing. I can't find the link as always. There it is, Jan's free book. All that we ask, though, is that you pay it forward by sharing the book with at least 3 friends and family, preferably more. Also note, we have it in ebook format, but also audiobook format. So if you're lazy or you want to go on a run, you can listen to it too. Read by none other than Guy Swan. No relation to Swan Bitcoin, except that he's our friend and we love him. And to all the Swan Force members, Swan Force, we have set up a way for you to give away the book to help you recruit new Bitcoiners. Look in your brand new referral dashboard and you'll find a link you can use to send people to your Swan Force landing page so that they can get the free book offer and you can get the referral credit. And if you're not signed up for Swan Force yet, I don't know what you're doing, go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist and sign up. It's a great deal. You'll earn 25% of Swan's fees on your referrals purchases for 3 years. And the person you refer will get $10 of free Bitcoin when they become a Swan member. Also, make sure to watch to the end of the episode today because we have a very special segment that we're going to do each week now called Swan Force Fridays, where we'll put our guests on the clock and give them 90 seconds to give us their very best Bitcoin pitch. Finally, the Daily Buys beta is underway. I stacked today, actually. I stacked yesterday, and I stacked the day before because I'm stacking every single day. And if you want to stack every single day, go to, where's the damn link? Why can I never find these links? swanbitcoin.com/dailybuys. There it is, folks. There's the link. Go there, sign up, get in the beta. But before I bring in our guests, one last thing. Please, please, please smash that like button and hit subscribe. Why? Because doing so helps us beat those no good, dirty YouTube algorithms, which in turn will help us spread the good word about Bitcoin. So now, without any further ado, I think it's time for, is it time? Let me check the time. It's almost time. I've got to unmute them. And yes, it is time for Swan Lounge. Welcome, everybody.
What's up?
Happy to be here.
I've got to shorten that intro. I'm out of breath right now, fellas.
Cheers. Yeah, man. That's work, man. That is some work.
That was good, man. That was great. You need to train professional right there.
I learned from Brady. He's the master of the Swan shill and the Bitcoin shill. And the amazing podcast intro with the dawn of the Bitcoin Renaissance. So I'm working.
We all have our own styles. That was very bricky, and I give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, well, thank you.
That was perfect. That was great. That was like those OG radio hosts.
I was considering doing something different, like I could do a Trump voice for the whole thing, but that might get boring. Or I don't know. Are you stacking sats today, ladies and gentlemen? Or like a Walter Cronkite would be fun, like ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Swan Lounge. Today on Swan Lounge, we have the gentleman from Simply Bitcoin. It's a podcast. You should subscribe. Go find it. We've got Coin Icarus and we've got Nico. Anyway, that was my Walter Cronkite.
That's pretty good.
It's really good, yeah.
Thank you.
It's better than mine, that's for sure.
You do a pretty good coiny though. I'll give you that. You make a great coin Icarus. So.
Yeah, I work at it. It's part of my daily ritual.
All right, so we've got the guys from Simply Bitcoin here. We've got Brady, you know him, you love him, Citizen Bitcoin. We've got Brandon Quidham, who just put out an amazing piece about the fourth turning. We'll drop a link for that later. Go read it. And certainly last, but definitely not least, we've got Reed Womack, the skiing Bitcoin Buddha. Talking about.
Master of support, answering all your questions related to Swan.
Who somehow tricked a woman to be his wife. Is that
Yes, I am now engaged.
Congratulations.
My life.
That's awesome.
Very
Man.
excited
Congrats,
about it.
man.
Everybody,
It's actually been really.
everybody in the chat, go and smash the like button in honor of Reed getting married.
Yeah.
It's been really supportive. Bitcoin Twitter. I actually, other than calling my parents as my friends, I shared with Bitcoin Twitter more than sort of like normie media. And actually more support among Bitcoin Twitter around the institution of marriage and just like, family values. So that's been really cool to see.
Well, it's something that's definitely seems like it's slipping in today's, in today's modern kind of age. So I think it's I think it's important, like I'm 40 and I can say that, let's say out of like 10 friends, at least two of them have never gotten married. Just, what do they call that? Like, where you just live together, and a couple of others have gotten divorced. So the numbers don't look so, you know what I mean? Like the numbers don't look so good. So it's good, man. It's good that you're entering this.
It's weird because, and I've noticed that as well. Like once you take sovereignty over yourself, those conservative principles, it just psychologically, I don't know, it's very weird. It's very strange. And I've noticed that a lot with Bitcoiners. It's just when you take self responsibility, which is a must in Bitcoin, it makes you more attracted to those conservative principles like marriage and all that good stuff. It's very strange. Very strange phenomenon.
And rumor has it that holding Bitcoin makes you more attractive as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
that's 100% for sure. Facts.
Somebody, please tell my wife that. Okay, because she is not impressed.
It only counts when you're single. Afterwards,
Speaking of family values, this guy came around to say hi.
Hi.
What's up, Eric?
Hey there.
Do you like Bitcoin?
Excited to see your dad on yet another podcast.
He can't hear you guys. I'm on headphones. All right. Hi, everyone. This is Eric, by the way. Eric's very excited about Halloween.
Cool. So am I, actually.
Are you guys trick-or-treating? Is anyone doing that? I didn't buy candy to put out. I was thinking of getting like hand sanitizer and candy to put out. Like, what do you do here?
Our city actually canceled it. So
yeah, I'm stuck in Raccoon City, aka New York, and I don't think they're doing that over here. I don't want to get arrested.
I just went for a walk here in Minneapolis, and I noticed that there's all these weird contraptions in people's front yard, and I was very confused. And then it hit me that, Halloween's tomorrow. And so there's a pulley system where a little basket goes from the front door to outside the fence. There's a giant tube, like a chute that goes from a window and shoots out into the sidewalk. So they're getting creative in Minneapolis.
Every time Halloween comes around, since I've been a Bitcoiner, I have this I just hear Saifedean's voice in my head, and he's just like, Halloween is a fiat holiday, and it was invented, and candy, and I'm just like, you know what? He's right.
Just hand out steaks. That's all you got to do.
It's all about the white papers. You just hand out white papers, copies of the white paper. If you're feeling really friendly, you can stick a little pack of gobstoppers into the the paper clip, and just that's it. That's what you got to do.
You think that actually is a good idea, but it made me think. I bet Saifedean, if he does Halloween, he must hand out like those, like you go to Costco and get like those giant mini packs of beef jerky. So it's probably like beef jerky and like a copy of the white paper. Perfect.
That's the more Saifedean approved approach.
And then you just dress up as the scariest Keynesian you can.
Who would that be? Who is the scariest Keynesian that you could think of off the top of your head?
Keynes.
Keynes. Yeah, exactly.
Keynes? No, but no one knows who he is, man.
Do you
Like
think
if you
That's
dressed up
true,
like that,
actually.
you look like some dude from the 18 or the 19. No one, I wouldn't know.
All right, so Steve Mnuchin
Yes,
dressed up as Steve.
absolutely,
You know,
100%.
or that Stephanie Kelton chick? But we'll
oh my god.
later.
She's not scary. She's not
Yeah.
scary. She's
Yeah.
just funny.
It's
But
just
what she's writing is pretty scary.
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. It's just so man. These analogies. You saw the scoreboard analogy today, where she's like, the government is a scoreboard. They're outside the game. They just award points. I'm like, no, that's not outside the game. If you're awarding points to players inside the game, that's not outside the game. Plus,
And
the
if
points are actually resources to be used in the game. Yeah, that
And
was
if
just
you can
madness.
award points to yourself as the scorekeeper, who wants to play with you?
These they're so transparently bad, these analogies, that I just you have to imagine that there's an intended obvious agenda behind it. Like you can't, like, this woman's actually, like, obviously pretty smart. So, just these forced analogies that are obviously terrible.
So I was thinking about that the other day. Like, are these people inherently evil? Like, what's going on? Imagine studying your entire life, right? And your whole school of thought is based on this outdated system. And then this Satoshi comes out of nowhere and creates this magic internet money, and it just completely destroys your life's work and your life's study. How else would you react if they were in their shoes? Bitcoin completely destroys their purpose in life.
But
They deserve it. They totally deserve it. But from their perspective, I could totally see why these people are so, especially Peter Schiff, like, that's why he's so crazy. I would be.
Yeah, you got to show your bags.
you got to watch people's actions. For example, I just got a notification that I got followed by Michael Arrington. Why would Michael Arrington from XRP ever follow me? Probably because he secretly loves Bitcoin. Anyway, one more chill, folks. Smash that like button. Help us beat those algos. If you're on Twitter, give us a retweet. It doesn't cost anything,
Crypto YouTube has, channels with hundreds of thousands of viewers, right? We've got to rally Bitcoin YouTube. All right. Swan Signals, Simply Bitcoin. Head over to Simply Bitcoin right now. What's your guys' channel URL? You can just search Simply Bitcoin, right?
Yep. We pop right up.
These guys are doing a really fun daily show. It's it's short, like, to the point, segments. It's a lot of fun. You guys got to check it out. Subscribe. Bitcoin YouTube for the win.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you're absolutely right about that. The shitcoiners, they have, they've got massive followings, and it's kind of interesting, right? Because since Nico and I started doing Simply Bitcoin, we've been getting a lot of really encouraging messaging, just from random YouTube, from YouTube people that were just like, I thought that this was going to be some show that just, talks about charts and then tries to shill me a shitcoin. And, like, you guys are genuinely just talking about Bitcoin. It's like, yeah. This is because it's so tiring, every single time I go to put something crypto, every time you go to look for Bitcoin, all you find is crypto. And it's like, no, we're done.
Or you look into, you look and find a YouTube channel and they make some price prediction and it sounds really good. And then 3 days later, it's like, oh, they no longer highlighting their horribly wrong price predictions.
So that's the worst part about YouTube. And that's why Cornichris and I decided to start Simply Bitcoin, because, man, the shitcoin channels, right? Forgive me for my language. The reason they're so big is because they leverage the power of the algorithm. So what we did is we're using the same little sneaky tricks, right? The awesome thumbnail, the short 10-minute sweet spot, and we're just beating them at their own game. But once people click, we actually give really good content. So we're beating them at their own game. So Cornichris and I decided to beat them at their own, use their rules against them, so to speak.
There you go, man.
I really don't enjoy saying smash that like button, but we have to do it. We got to do it.
Yeah.
Smash that like
I think
No shame.
the thing I learned this week that could be even more effective is just encouraging users to watch to the end of the video. Yeah. Even if you just, like, put it, over to the side and you're doing something else, right? Tuning in and out. That also is apparently very helpful for YouTube algos, making sure you get, like, long people watch it for a long time. So keep watching the video, because at the end, you're going to hear the best 90-second tip about Bitcoin.
It's the thumbnail, the viewer retention, exactly what you said, and the 10-minute sweet spot. I don't know why, but YouTube really likes those 10 minutes. So if you keep your videos around 10 minutes, for some reason, the algorithm is like, this is good content, and just pushes it out there. Very strange.
Our videos are like 12x too long, Ricky.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been tuning in. I really enjoy it. So every time Corey puts the link in, I always do my best to check it out, and I love the conversations that you guys have on Swan Signal as well as the lounge. So
same here.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
Like it a lot.
Well, now you're here and you're part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I think we got to kick it off. I think they're a little sick of hearing us talk about the YouTube tricks, or at least I am. So, Nico, I know you're a connoisseur of block fees. I was hoping you can give us all a little update about what's going on and perhaps where things are going.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, so something very strange happened. The narrative that's being pushed around is that there's a switch from hydroelectric power to fossil fuel power. Man, I'm calling BS. You don't see, a hash rate drop that we saw. I think it was 20%. And it helps me as the miner because now all of a sudden the block times are averaging around 11 minutes, 42 seconds, right? Which, over the long term, that just makes the confirmations times longer, which means that the fees go higher. So for me as a miner, we're actually making about 30% more revenue. That's coming just from the block rewards. Absolutely insane. Now, the big question, and I would love to get anybody in China that's, anybody, but I don't think I'm going to get that information, is what the hell happened? What happened? What's going on? Because the reason I don't buy that narrative is, man, you're losing a lot of money, and these mining consortiums are so big that losing this opportunity just because they had an inefficiency in changing the source of electricity, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it. I'm sure someone will tweet about it and we'll find out.
This is above my pay grade, but I think I feel like Brandon knows a little bit of something about this.
I don't know if I do. Sorry, I was distracted by the comment asking Reed about his jacket, which I find to be a funny question.
It is a funny question, and it deserves answering. Reed.
So I live in a mountain citadel in Montana, and it's real cold here. And I keep the heat down so I can buy more Bitcoin. So I wear a jacket, a puffy jacket to work in.
Dude, you should just use an S9, man. Just plug it in, use it as your heater.
That's true. I thought about that. I don't think the fiance would be pleased with the noise.
It would be a little loud, that's for sure.
Cyber Hornets, man. You got to bring the Cyber Hornets in. Cyber Hornets. Yeah, and you can also dry beef jerky with them. By the way, speaking of beef jerky, there is a company that sells miner dried S9 dried beef jerky.
No,
that's genius.
Yeah, I had it in Bitcoin 2019.
So
my God.
I wish I knew the name of it so we could look it up right now, but it's out there.
Back to hash rate. Come on, let's go. What are we doing?
Yeah, well, we had a rebound today. We're up 3% since 2 days ago. This does happen regularly. This is a pretty severe seasonal drop, a little bigger than it has been in the past. But yeah, no, this is a big one. This is like twice as big as it usually is. Yeah.
It's a 14% difficulty reduction.
It's an historically high drop, like one of the top 5 drops of all time. Yeah.
And we still don't have a death spiral? We're still good? Everything's fine?
That doesn't exist.
No, we're good. It's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity for other miners to spin back up and make some Bitcoin.
100%. I think this is a good transition to our next topic, which is the fact that Iran has mandated that Bitcoin mining is okay as long as the Bitcoin is used to buy imports that are coming into Iran. I found this just really interesting, and it's something that it's like one of those things that comes up in the news where I think it's good for the world and good for Bitcoin, but like people like my dad will probably be like, oh, they're skirting sanctions, and so it's kind of I think it's a bit of a hot topic. I'd love to get your takes on it.
Who wants to go?
Just jump. No, I like to see who goes in first.
I'll jump in on this one. I think if we zoom out for a second, monetizing energy assets is a really smart way for central banks to accumulate Bitcoin. And so I think we're going to see, I don't know the number, but a significant portion of them do this prior to just smashing market buy to fill up the treasury. And so I think that's a good sign. I think it's pretty clear that Venezuela's also done this already. It's kind of murky getting information out of both of these countries. But I think we can say Iran is safely the first country to accumulate. And interestingly, they have the sixth highest hash rate out of any country in the world. And so that's a good sign. That's also on their side there. And I think the most important thing here is that, speaking to Brecky's point around the optics, is this does make some people feel weird because we're supposed to hate Iran. But that's just the medicine we're given from the dollar hegemony. So it's not necessarily true that Iran is bad, and obviously the people aren't bad. We just don't like their government. And so the takeaway is that Bitcoin is credibly neutral. Your enemies will use Bitcoin. Iran will use Bitcoin. If the terrorists come and they steal all the dollars, they're not going to burn the dollars. They might burn the building and they'll leave with the dollars. And Bitcoin's credibly neutral. So I think this is hugely, hugely bullish. And I don't think people really understand how important it's going to be. And maybe in 6 months, we'll see more.
I agree. It's gonna be interesting to see which are the real first bigger countries to kind of go in. I remember, I think doesn't Bulgaria have a ton of Bitcoin as well? Maybe they got it by accident or something.
Yeah, they got it by accident from some hackers in 2015. It's unclear whether they're still holding it or not. But I have a Bulgarian friend that is his life mission is to improve the state of Bulgaria, and I keep teasing him that Bulgaria may be the richest country in the world in 5 years if they still own this Bitcoin.
Oh man, I bet the FBI really wishes they didn't sell all of that Silk Road Bitcoin to Tim Draper.
For Iran, I think that one of the worries, at least something that I saw, was that people are worried that Iran's going to use this to import weapons and enrichment tech, right? For to enrich the uranium.
Yes, for energy.
Yeah, well, yeah, for a different type of energy, like a war energy.
Yeah.
But again, that's always the worry, right? Everybody always just places their cards on that side.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can give you kind of the perspective from Venezuela, but first initially, I just want to say that the U.S. is definitely going to use this to kind of fit their narrative, right? Because these two countries have one thing in common. The U.S. has weaponized the U.S. dollar for political needs, right? That's clear, okay? And these countries are using it clearly to skirt some form of the sanctions that are imposed on them by the United States, right? And from the Venezuelan perspective, I've heard from people on the ground that around 40 to 30% of the economy is running on some form of cryptocurrency, the majority being Bitcoin, okay? So it's incredibly bullish. And people are using, and I'm not talking about people our age, because the reality is that in Western countries, we are not using Bitcoin as a necessity. We're using Bitcoin because we believe it. We believe in the ideologies once we got Trojan horsed after the fact. But in Venezuela, people are using it as a method of survival, which is incredibly bullish. So you could have one S9, right, which is the miner of the last epoch, feeding a family, giving more of a salary than what you would make. That gives me goosebumps. That's incredibly liberating. The fact that you're not tied to whatever shenanigans the government's doing in your country, right? So it's inspiring to me when I hear stuff like that.
It is inspiring. The one worry though is you look at in Iran where they're controlling who is essentially allowed to mine. Not that you couldn't get around it, but it's pretty obvious it's pretty obvious when people are mining based off how much energy they're consuming. So I'm with you. It's just
are people actually in Venezuela actually mining, like individuals? And can you actually make? I mean, you can't actually make meaningful money with one S9, right?
So I just had on my individual podcast, nothing to do with Simply Bitcoin. I talked to one of the biggest miners in Venezuela. The name of the company is called Dr. Miner. They have over 10,000 miners hosted with them. And the reason that people want to mine in Venezuela is the cost of electricity is super low for two reasons. First of all, the actual resources like the hydroelectric electricity, and the fact that miners have to fluctuate to and you guys know this, to energy that's completely isolated from everywhere else, right? And then there's the other factor of the black market rate versus the official exchange rate, right? So actually mining in Venezuela, if you can get over the security factor, which is a major factor, right? It's actually pretty cheap compared to the rest of the world, right?
Sure.
So,
but you still need like hundreds of miners to like.
So with one S9, you're making more, right? And mind you, that S9 is very old. Okay, for us in the States, and with the cost of electricity, you're lucky to make 10 cents a day, right? But you have to understand that inflation is like 2 million%, man.
Right.
So
Okay.
like the salary, you're making nothing. So imagine having this machine from God. Like. That's just making you magic internet money. It's absolutely insane, but it's artificial. It's only because of the massive inflation that's happening in the country.
I see what you're saying. That 10 cents is worth a lot of money in Venezuela. Yeah. Okay.
It's very weird. It's very weird because now the economy has also become dollarized as well. But what I hear when people on the ground, right, is about half of the economy is actually running on cryptos, right? Specifically Bitcoin to save. And I think I heard it was Dash to spend or something like that, right? This is what I hear from people on the ground that actually live there. That's what I'm being told.
El Sultan Bitcoin. Shout out to El Sultan.
We're going to bring on our buddies from Venezuela on one of these Swan Lounges soon because I miss them. And I want to talk. And then Javier, and then we'll really find out what's happening. But meanwhile, there's this thing called MMT. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. It sounds like monopoly money. Can anybody explain it to me and why it's trending on Twitter? Brady, help me out here.
I'm trying to come up with a really good alternative acronym on the spot here, but it's not happening. Modern monetary theory. It's the inevitable end of Keynesian ideology. It is the idea that the central banks should have complete control over the money and the fiscal policy. So, basically a closer union, even closer union than exists now between central banks and governments. Central bank digital currencies, for instance, would be welcomed by modern monetary theorists because it would be even easier for central banks. There's no friction to just create more money to decide on a with the scalpel like precision where to apply interest rates to certain people or groups of people, and negative interest rates for some people, positive interest rates for others, and just manipulate the money in a much more precise way. Modern monetary theory says that debt is not an issue. It's not a thing. Deficit, a government's running a deficit is not an issue for a government because they can just print their way out of that deficit. So the word deficit is like meaningless when you're a government, when you have the printing press. It matters for people, for households and businesses who need to generate profits. But for a government or for central banks, it doesn't apply. So yeah, this is Keynesian ideology run amok. And it is a very serious, it's being taken very seriously by people in power.
They almost make Keynesians look responsible, which is what's scary.
Yeah, almost, right? I mean, if you go back and actually read Keynes and listen to some of what he said, like the dude was absolutely conservative compared to, the economists of today, which, just happens. So I think with modern monetary theory, we've got sort of the extreme other end of a sound money, and Bitcoin is an extreme, like perfectly sound money. And so now we have the battle set up, and, we Bitcoiners know who's going, what money is going to win that battle, the actual money, not the currency that's being, the dollar's not even money anymore. It's a currency. So we have one money on this planet, maybe two if you count gold, but I think gold's a shitcoin. So
I think there's an important historical reference or analogy we can bring up here, which is that in the 1930s, we're coming off of the stock market collapse of 29. We're in the Great Depression. Things are bad. And then there's a giant New Deal with FDR, lots of spending. And then in 37 and 38, there was a Roosevelt recession, just a very short, small recession. And out of that period, the consensus was essentially, FDR, you didn't spend enough. So now we're in a recession. And so FDR went full Keynesian and established the precedent of deficit spending as a vehicle for economic recovery during a time of national crisis. And pretty much everyone got on board with it right away. The alternatives were much worse. Even conservative business leaders would rather have the government print new money versus increase taxes, which will come from rich people. So pretty much everyone got on board the Keynesian train. And, fast forward a ways here. Now we're on a supercharged version of that, like Brady said. And now the pitch is that it's not during a national crisis that we do deficit spending. It's that we can do this forever and there are absolutely no consequences. I don't know how you can say those words with a straight face. My only guess is that Stephanie is trying to lock herself in as a Cantillon insider and, just praise the Cantillons, and now she'll have her throne.
That's fascinating theory.
Depressing me. We had another comment in the chat that also depressed me. It was from Taproot Uvas, I believe. And it was a question: has the U.S. national debt been mentioned even once during this campaign season?
Debt doesn't matter anymore.
Nope.
Yeah, they don't talk about it anymore.
It doesn't. It doesn't. If anybody at home is curious, there's a great website, by the way, usdebtclock.org. Be in a good mood before you go to it, because we're currently I can't even read that number. That's how many.
It doesn't even matter anymore, even for us.
No.
Like, it's just because it's not a number that's being used or pointed to for any meaningful policy discussion, like it's been brought up by this comment, right? Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
I was just gonna say
Sorry, for Nicarus.
No worries. It's all good. They simply can't use, like you were just saying. I mean, that number is completely irrelevant at this point. They're not even trying to address it. And like you said, it's not even part of the conversation, which is really sad, because they're fully aware that they're at the end of the rope. And now here comes I remember once upon a time they would talk about this really difficult thing they had to do. We're going to have to print money. It's not, we're trying to do the right thing here, and it's going to be tough. Like, now there's not even a flinch, it's like, this is just part of the game. This is how it works. And you're a fool if you don't buy into this.
Yeah.
So,
and
the fact
concern around debt typically was sort of a fiscally conservative or like a Republican issue, and has seemingly just dropped off of the radar of the Republican Party in the last 10 years or so. Like, I remember, when I was growing up, the Republicans still mentioned it, and no longer is it at all in the discourse, even from that side.
The fact that they printed 20% of the total U.S. money supply this year, and that hasn't made any news whatsoever, should scare the living crap out of you. Okay, that's it.
Under Republican,
this is the point.
Under Republican president.
All right. So Stephanie's threads today, she said that there is no limit to the money that a government can print, except for inflation, which we don't have right now. Word for word quote. Word for word quote at the end of whatever threads. The only limit to money printing is inflation, which we don't have right now. So this is the ideology. I don't understand how these people can't see what's actually happening. Are they actually fooled by the CPI? Do they still actually believe what they're saying, or is it all just to save face at this point? I was talking to Preston Pish this week. He was on Citizen Bitcoin podcast, and he was saying, like, look, even at this point, even if they do know, there's only one choice: to keep printing. Otherwise, the whole machine comes to a halt. So the way out of this at this point is print. So money printer go burr, US dollar shredder go burr, and it turns into, so you just print and turn it into Bitcoin. And like, that's the only way that we could sort of try to get out of this thing with some relative, sanity.
I think, the thing is, the human mind is a marvelous thing, right? And it can do incredible things, but it can also do incredibly bad things. And when your reality is when there are a lot of bad things going on, like as human beings, we rewrite these narratives and we tell ourselves these stories so that we don't lose our freaking minds. And I think a lot of these people, like when a lot of us came into Bitcoin, we had to unlearn a lot of the things that we thought we knew, right? And we've done that. We've gone over that sort of hurdle. But for a lot of these people who have entrenched interests and their livelihoods depend on it, and they've got this worldview that they've built up over years, it might break them emotionally and mentally to even to get to where we are. I don't know. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not just evil, but
she must be really close to the spigot because somebody's obviously not feeling it. But somebody in the chat mentioned, the inflation is happening outside the U.S. first, and that is true. But not only that, but here in the U.S., they're hiding the inflation, as we all know, and if we don't know, then they're hiding it in the house values, they're hiding it in the asset prices. Right? The stock market, the stock market is completely uncorrelated to reality. Like it makes no sense. So yeah.
Go back and rewatch The Big Short. I did it the other night again.
Yes.
Like the only difference from me watching it this time around was that afterwards, like I had hope because of Bitcoin, but otherwise, like depressing as shit,
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how much power is consolidated in such few people, right? And we all know that power corrupts, right? And I don't think that all these people are necessarily evil. I don't think that they're twirling their mustaches, scheming. I just think that the architecture in which they have to make decisions is horrible. So it results in they get rewarded for doing bad things. It's not necessarily that they are evil people. It's just the current system is built in such a manner that it's like you have to do those bad things in order to survive. So, man, it's messed up. But I'm glad that we all have a way to opt out. Everyone has a way.
Yep. Yeah, money printing is the least bad of many, of several options, right? Like it's just the only choice now.
So I think I personally disagree with you on this one, Brady. I think we stop the money printing, let the reset happen, but that's between you and me.
Yeah, we've had this conversation, and we can keep having it, but I don't know if we're going to make any new ground or not.
Probably not. Unfortunately, I gotta sign off, go back to support land, and make room for another guest who will be coming on the show. Thank you guys for having me on. This has been fun, and enjoy the rest of the conversation.
Nice chatting, Reed.
Thank you, Reed.
Later, man.
All right, folks. We have a new guest. You know him, you love him. In 3, 2, 1. Mr. Corey Clipston, one of the founders of Swan.
Oh, shit. Look at that.
That is pretty.
I really like my Brecky engineered 3D printed Swan coaster almost as much as my Brecky designed Swan Force.
Give credit to Jorn. Okay, Jorn was most.
Jorn is amazing.
I love the merch, guys. It's awesome.
We need swag, Nico.
I know.
We
need merch, man. We're slacking right now.
Shout out Tom, one of the original founders of this project way back in the day, who actually gave us the super Swan snake looking S logo. I hope he's feeling better. He had some health issues last year, but yeah, dude, guys, great convo so far. I'm psyched to join this and dive in. YouTube chat is lit too.
Oh,
if you don't have a chat window open, you're really missing out on the whole point of. I think Swan Lounge actually is the YouTube chat during this show. That's the Swan Lounge.
Yeah, I'm in the Periscope chat as well. We've got a few people in there.
It's hopping.
Shout out AC, Nathan, Kevin, Skylar, Taproot, Luke. Greg was in there. Todd, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining. You guys really, bring a lot to the discussion. We're watching and interacting as much as we can.
what's this comment? Corey swanned out here. Can we do a giveaway contest for some merch?
Well, so these we've talked about a few times. We're going to have a bunch of these at Bitcoin 2021. So shout out to BTC Mag folks. But yeah, we got like, I don't know, 50 or 60 shirts printed. Got the swan stamped right on top of existing t-shirts. And so those are going out little by little to close friends, and we'll have some contests and stuff like that. But yeah. What's our merch link? Is it Zazzle.com/SwanBitcoin? We got a ton of stuff up there now.
We do. We've got some fun stuff. We got some Swan Force merch. We got some regular Swan merch. We need to get some Arsenal merch up there, I think. I think that's in the pipeline. But
this Flex Fit hat. This Flex Fit hat is where it's at. Check it out.
Flex Fit
We
hat
got the
and where
Swan
it's
logo,
at.
Swan on the back.
Brady and I were waiting for them. They were out of stock because of COVID delays and whatnot, but they were worth the wait.
Nice. Well, I do have to give a few quick shout outs to people that are tuned in. So good to have you here, Greg. Looking forward to live memes all over the net. You've been a beast lately. Shout out Bitcoin Diplomat, new explosion onto the scene, having some lively arguments. And I don't think he swears, which is really weird for Bitcoin Twitter, but he just seems like a very polite,
he's diplomatic,
classy gentleman. So shout out. And Skylar, I think you're in here every single time we have a show, which is awesome. Keeping it live. Cool. What are we talking about? I heard some MMT chat right before I joined. Did we finish it?
I think it's depressing, and we feel like more exciting to talk about.
Can you find the Breedlove tweet that just absolutely destroyed her thread and just put it in the comments on YouTube? And I mean, she's never going to come debate him, because it would just be too embarrassing. And yes, I did hear somebody say, like, I think it was Brandon was saying, maybe she's just auditioning. That is absolutely something that people do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've seen it many times with people just, going to bat for a presidential candidate just in case that, person gets elected and then they get a role, but these regulators do it constantly, auditioning for jobs on Wall Street, and academics do it constantly too. And they're auditioning. They really are often, not always, often.
Here, we'll show this tweet real quick. Reading through the comments on tweets like this reinforces my faith that the digital age is ushering in the ultimate form of a global free market. Stack sats and pay attention. The truth is making a comeback in the 21st century. We are living through the neo-renaissance. I could not agree more.
Neo-renaissance. I like that.
Yeah, no, Bitcoin Renaissance. He screwed that one up, didn't he?
No, but I like it. It's, reference to the Matrix, and it means new. I like it.
I wasn't the Matrix. I really like
That's
that.
actually great. Neo-Renaissance brought about by Bitcoin. That might have legs. That's pretty solid.
I still like Bitcoin Renaissance better.
It is.
More precise.
Even the dawn of, perhaps.
Yeah, I think, just to add to, Breedlove's point, I think that the new world, right, is going to be built on truth, right? And I think that Bitcoin, for some reason or the other, it's just game theory. It rewards truthfulness. It rewards the truth. You can't, as soon as you see a Bitcoiner, or there's someone on Twitter, as soon as they start being, malicious or they start lying, it's just like a swarm of cyber hornets just go and attack that person. And that person leaves Twitter. They can't survive, So I think that the future is going to be built on that foundation, and it's so important.
100%. And speaking of that foundation, I think it's time we discuss something that's coming up tomorrow, the 12th anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. And
Epic.
It's just epic. I kind of wanted to ask y'all about maybe your first time reading it, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, tell us.
All right. Well, so I mean, I read it multiple times. And I'm not even going to pretend to understand all of it, but I can say this. The first time I read it, I was like, as I was reading it, I'm like, I think they actually solved the problem for money. I think that's it. We finally have something to look at. But I'm like, no, this has to be a scam. I'm like, this can't work. So that was really my first take on the first time I read the Bitcoin white paper. But I do find it interesting. that it was released on Halloween.
Aren't there some theories behind that? Someone was telling me that there's some reason, there's a reasoning for that, but I can't remember what it was. Where's Brandon? Brandon, you here? Turn your camera off, bro. Sorry. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Let's bring someone else very important in right now.
There
we go.
The white paper.
It is.
Brady, were you going to read it, or we're just going to admire its beauty?
Yeah, I mean, everyone here has read it, but it is beautiful. A peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And what's your favorite? Anybody got a favorite quote from the white paper? The trusted third parties is classic. I mean, that's where it comes from, right? Originally, unless was that pulled from Szabo?
It might have been.
Szabo
wasn't quoted in here or like by name, but
my favorite word is the word cash. I'm going to go and pick one word and pretend that the entire narrative is that one word.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, I had to make fun of Roger.
My favorite quote was the line, "All your models are destroyed." Isn't that from the white paper?
Directly from the white paper. All your models are destroyed. I was thinking about the word cache, or like I would like to think about it as CACHE, right? Cache, like a place to store your value. It's an electronic cash system. That's what I always come back to.
It was a typo. Interesting theory.
A couple things on the white paper. So first of all, my first introduction was in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I was at a meetup, and one of the Bitcoiners there, Damien Me, shout out, who more or less converted me from a shitcoiner to a Bitcoiner. He was handing out white papers in physical form to all the meetups, and I still have mine. I went off camera trying to go find it, but I couldn't. But I thought that was a cool idea. So if you host a meetup, consider just printing out little books and giving them away. Second point is, it's pretty cool in Bitcoin land that we have like 15 holidays every year.
We do.
And so people considering us a cult or neo-Renaissance or whatever you want to call this, we at least have some culture and some traditions to build off of.
We need more reverence around the white paper. Not like to worship it, but I think it would be cool to have like different editions of physical copies. Like I was actually talking to a Bitcoin rabbi about this. And in Judaism, the Torah is painstakingly copied on vellum, I think. And I was just thinking, how cool would it be to do like an illuminated manuscript version of the white paper and just have it be this glorious document and, just a thought. So if anyone out there is a monk and practices illuminated texts, get in touch with me and we'll talk.
We should put it on like a scroll.
Exactly.
Like a parchment scroll, and have that as like a raffle giveaway at Bitcoin 2021 or something.
Maybe a bull hide.
Bull hide.
Or actually a bear hide. We need to slay the bear, create a hide out of the bear's hide, and then create the white paper.
Genius.
I really like this.
The Swan Lounge inevitably at some point becomes a Swan marketing meeting. It just happens.
Well,
just happens.
another idea that someone had was, the problem is people aren't really using hotels that often these days. But there's always a Bible in every hotel in the U.S. Like every time you go to a hotel, you should just leave a copy of Jan Pritzker's book, which you can get for free at swanbitcoin.com/free book, or a copy of the Bitcoin Standard, something like that, or even the white paper. Be sneaky, folks.
What if we printed the white paper on shredded currency? Ooh. That too, right? It's pretty fitting.
I love it.
Don't get me wrong. It's no match for the bear. The bear is like the ultimate version, but if you can't afford the bear version, then you get the shredded dollar bills version.
Get a bunch of Zimbabwe dollars and get a bunch of bolivars, right? That are just literally the definition of a failed currency. Just print the white paper on it. That's deep as hell.
That's actually a great idea. I've got a whole bunch of them here. I'm going to do that. That's really cool. I like it.
Do that.
Cool.
I will do that, Brady. I will.
I'm going to do that. I know you will.
Swan Lounge inspired art. I like it, man.
I like it. No NFTs. Just kidding.
No, some.
So would you guys consider, weird thought that just popped into my head, would you guys consider, you know how like the Constitution in the United States, the Constitution is whatever, would you consider the white paper like the equivalent to the Constitution of Bitcoiners, or not so much? Weird thought, just a thought.
Maybe not, because just because it's such a, the code base is such a living, breathing, text itself.
It's more like the Declaration of Independence. It's like, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that. And then like,
I think it's not even that though, Brecky. I mean, I got to go with Tour de Meester on this one because it's something that was spawned from the mind of one person that then got discussed and got shaped into something after that. So I think it's a lot more akin to like Martin Luther probably on his own writing the 95 Theses, whereas the Declaration of Independence was a lot of people collaborating and really being thoughtful about what was in it. Yeah, so I think it's a better analogy is probably the 95 Theses.
Yeah, I would say the code base is more like the Declaration and the Constitution, right? In that sense.
I like that.
Just has a lot more amendments.
Nice.
All right, Corey, you wanted to go through something pretty interesting. Willy Woo had a really cool.
Yeah, I'll tee it up while you bring it up. So the backstory here is on Wednesday, I did like a webinar or a talk or whatever for one of the largest asset managers on the planet. You'd all know their name, multi-trillion dollars. And there were about 60 people on there. And you're talking to some old school finance people when you're on a WebEx. And even more when there are 60 people on the call, which is video enabled, and there's one out of the 60 actually showing their face, and everybody else has their video blocked. And one person, shout out that one person that actually turned on their video for about 5 seconds to ask a question, and then quickly turned their video off again. So that was ballsy right there. That was like basically showing that you're a huge Bitcoin fan if you show your face for 5 seconds. Anyway, one of the things that came up, and this was actually from the person who invited me to talk, was he had a pretty strong thesis about, and it was basically stating as fact that Bitcoin had failed the test of being a safe haven in the liquidity crisis and in response to COVID. And I argued strongly, and I think correctly, that other than a very quick dip down for the night of March 12th, and then if it was really only like 4 or 5 weeks to recover back above 7K, 8K, 9K literally in 2 months, went from 9K to 9K in 2 months. And then obviously the rest of the year has been fantastic. So you could maybe make the case that it did not, it wasn't steady in the face of a liquidity crunch that was probably 10x worse than what we saw at the depths of the global financial crisis like 12 years ago, which is probably true. I mean, it did take that dive and snapped right back. But clearly it's been fantastic as a hedge, or just, kind of doing its own thing. It's just uncorrelated. Anyway, if you bring up that Willy Woo, I actually sent this over and asked him to distribute it to anybody that was interested in taking a look at it. And I think these are, if you can bring it up full screen. Yeah. So I sent this over to these guys this morning and said, just take a look at this. It's like really good illustration of the points I was making on Wednesday. So I'll just kind of read it. So here Willie's saying, here I'll show that investors already consider BTC a safe haven under on-chain capital flows. Common wisdom that BTC is risk on is a fallacy, solely a consequence of trader liquidations on derivative exchanges. That's exactly what we kind of thought was going on back in March. And it seems like it's very much borne out by the data. And again, this just kind of goes with, I'm not the only person to basically be looking at Bitcoin as an adoption story, and it's kind of doing its own thing, but we're probably much more, on an S curve of a technology adoption, and still, probably on the flat part before we head up the S curve. So the second tweet in the thread is, during the 2 months of the COVID correction, BTC price went from 9K to 9K with very quick and deep price rejection below 7K. Even traders rejected sub 7K valuations. So that was that really deep wick down in March. This is a monthly chart that you've got going on there. So the red wick down was March, and then basically a steady step back up ever since. So yeah, I mean that's really it. Actually, you can probably skip the NVT one and go to the more rainbow chart. I think this one's really interesting. This is showing the amount of Bitcoin that's held on spot exchanges, and essentially what you're seeing is it's basically since January you're seeing the balance decline. So heavy reaccumulation by longtime hodlers with big stacks of value, converting it from fiat or other assets into Bitcoin and taking it off of exchanges. And the last time that started to trend down was basically all the way up through January of 17. And I think we all know what happened starting in January 17. In this accumulation phase, and the taking of the coins off of the exchange has actually been longer already than the last time that metric started to decline, leading up to January of 17, which kicked off the 20x from it through the end of the year. So pretty wild. Just summing it up the way that Willie did, the fundamentals of BTC became visibly bullish over the COVID correction. This was hidden by traders freaking out and being liquidated. Bitcoin is only now reflecting its organic valuation. Bitcoin has been acting as a safe haven all along. One awesome innovation Bitcoin offers is a blockchain for us to see this in high resolution. Price is a laggy indicator of quantitative fundamentals. Price follows fundamentals. It's a safe haven already.
Boom.
Anyway, I just love this. I think it was fantastic. Great job, Willie. We do need to get him on the show. He keeps on, doing the dance on some of these larger crypto, blockchain, shitcoiny type shows and going and showing them like you don't need to be paying attention to these other things. So kudos to him for going stomaching some conversational counterparts that would be hard for me to do.
Willie does it right, man. He does it based on fundamentals and on-chain analytics, and I love his stuff. He's the man.
100%. Before we move on, we've got something else really cool that we want to share with you. I just want to share that Greg agrees with me. So fine, you agree with Tor, Greg agrees with me. That's more important in my book.
I think I got outvoted Brady Brecky and the best shit posting memer on the internet today, and so fine, I'll take the loss.
No, you swung my vote. I agree.
Oh, really? So we're 2-2. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
So we need a tiebreaker. Well, what's it going to be? Put out a poll on Twitter right now from the Swan
That's the
handle.
best way.
Yeah, we'll just find out. Is the Bitcoin white paper more like the Declaration of Independence or the 95 Theses? And post Y in the comments, and we'll find out.
I'll do it. We'll see. Yeah. We should while we wait for some votes to come in on that, we should talk about Brandon's epic piece that he dropped yesterday.
Yes, we should. Brandon, if you want to introduce it real quick, I can full screen it and we can go through it a little bit, kind of how we just did.
Yeah, I'll give a quick and dirty, and if we want to go section by section or something, that's fine. But hopefully we don't need to bore people too long. But first of all, the correct answer is the 95 Thesis. Just have to make that clear. So when you're voting, you can choose the right answer or the wrong answer. That's your choice. Okay, fourth turning. This is a book written in 1997 by two demographers, Neil Howe and William Strauss. Neil Howe, interestingly, works for Hedgeye, which we all know the CEO of Hedgeye is Keith Quad 4 McCullough, aka Shooter McGavin. These guys have their own opinions about the world, and it's going to be really fun to watch them and self-destruct. But anyways, so the book is really, really cool, and written the same year as a sovereign individual. I think it fits nicely with that bouquet of frameworks and how we can try to understand the world. And the basic thesis is that human civilization goes in cycles, and according to that thesis, we're at the very end of that cycle, which started on the heels of World War II. And the fourth turning period of the cycle is defined by chaos or war or crisis. You essentially tear down the old institutions, social, political, economic, and rebuild. And it's an important period. It's not all doom and gloom. It gets pretty bad, but the important part is that we essentially burn it all down and start over. And this gives some optimism to young people, and we can create a better world, hopefully. And previous periods like today were World War II, Civil War, American Revolution, to give you an idea. And the current fourth turning started in 2000 with the financial crisis, and we're about halfway through it. So expect somewhere between now and 2030, you'll see the mood or the tone change tremendously. The more optimistic, we'll rebuild, and a lot of things will be different. So the previous fourth turning, we came up with Bretton Woods, the IMF, the UN, NATO, World Bank, all kinds of Social Security, pensions, all this stuff came out of that. And so it will be a period of centralizing power. We're going to give up liberties. We'll also have a bit more equality in the process. I think equality and freedom are sort of polar opposites. And so we're going to swing the pendulum much more closer to equality, which in some ways is good, but at the expense of liberty. And the paper is 10,000 words. It took me 6 months to write it. It's published on my website. You can read the big guy there, or Guy Swan pulled out rabbit out of a hat and put up the audio the same day the article was released. And he did a fantastic job with the voices of George Washington and Bain and some other stuff. So definitely go listen to the audio, and the tweet thread gives a good summary as well. It's essentially my attempt to place us as Bitcoiners in deep history. Like, where are we? What can we take from historical fact looking forward? And it's also a lot of my commentary on the zeitgeist today. Some of the social issues we're dealing with, why certain things feel like they're going a certain way. And Neil's thesis is really, really, really strong here. It's predictive. It's not perfect or precise, but it is quite predictive. And the last third of the essay is heavily focused on Bitcoin and kind of how I see it playing into this transition. You guys know my stance here, so you can imagine where it ends.
I love that. Brendan, do you want us to go through this a little bit? I think there's some interesting things, especially maybe even just the sorry, let me get rid of that. Just that last cartoon you have in there, I think just can bring up a whole bunch of questions for us.
Yeah, quick question. Who did the art? I love who did the cover art, and then just the graphs or whatever, the illustrations below, diagrams.
Did we lose Brandon? I think we lost Brandon.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. All the black and white graphics I designed. Nick Ward helped me with the supply and demand of order, that chart, which is, if you take nothing away, just understand that right there, that will define your cycles. Yeah, this is a fascinating thesis there. The cover photo, I found some art online and I just tweaked it to fit what I wanted to get out of it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Appreciate it.
1 second. This is the one I wanted to show. This is
God, yeah.
So scary.
Mhm.
Yes.
Comrade, if you haven't met your required dose of high fructose corn syrup, we sent Fedbox to your chip. Spend at an approved vendor within 10 days. Oh, man.
That's the future Stephanie wants. I personally don't want to be farmed by our fiat overlords. And so Bitcoin's sort of a beacon of light or hope pushing against that future. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty clear that's where we're going, right? The technocrats, they know no bounds. They're going to, they think that they can manage the economy now that they have even better tools than they did before. And we know how this process goes. I think bringing in Naval's quote is wise here, which is that you can either run society at scale through force or through free markets. And Bitcoin is the pillar for free markets, obviously. And if we don't have that, we will be managed by force. The biggest thug rules. And so, yeah, all the more reason to make Bitcoin succeed.
You're so exactly right, because I remember we reported this on Simply Bitcoin not too many days. It was like a week ago or so, Coin Icarus, where the International Monetary Fund is like, we need a new Bretton Woods. You know what that means, right? They really want that central bank digital currency because they could just helicopter money off everybody and collect those taxes much more efficiently. And exactly that meme that you posted about the comrade and the high fructose corn syrup, that will happen. It looks like a joke now, but that will happen if central bank digital currencies become a thing. So I'm so grateful that Bitcoin gives us an out.
100%. And I think central bank digital currencies are only one step towards an even scarier future, which is when all nation states pile all their CBDCs together and create an SDR or a Bancor 2.0, which is essentially a new token, one token to rule them all by our central bank overlords. And all the other central bank digital currencies just go in the basket and reference this. And what that does is it allows every individual country to print their CBDC at will. They can essentially all print at the same time, and then their Forex rates don't get messed up. And so it's very empowering to our overlords. And yeah, I don't know. I think Bitcoin actually is a better medium for nation states. But in the short term, I think we're going to see Bretton Woods 2.0.
So I think, and this was actually posted on bitcointalk.org, right? And this was posted in 2013, and I'm paraphrasing here, so, forgive me if I butcher this, but it basically said that it's impossible to have a system of central banking and Bitcoin. There needs to eventually there needs to be some sort of winner coming out of that. And it was so wise when I read that. This was posted in like 2013, right? So I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts on that are.
My initial reaction is, and I haven't done any thinking on this, my initial reaction though is we have gold now. Why is Bitcoin different in terms of that question?
Because gold has and is it's very easy to manipulate, right? And when you're transferring gold, all you're doing is you're transferring paper gold, right? You're not actually moving bricks from one custodian to another custodian. Okay, Bitcoin completely changes that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could you are actually holding, you're the custodian of your own wealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a game changer. You can't do that with gold, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't have, you can, right? But imagine having your whole net worth under your bed in gold bars. Now try to sell that. Now try to leave the country with that. It's literally impossible. You could do that with Bitcoin, right? So I think that's the key difference.
Yeah, I tweeted earlier this week that Bitcoin democratizes final settlement. And that's massive, right? It gives everybody on the planet the power pretty easily and pretty cheaply to demand final settlement of any transaction they want. That's really only a privilege of central banks at this point.
I agree. It's disintermediating the money, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate again, but what's stopping them from just hoarding some Bitcoin on the balance sheet and either issuing shitcoins against it or just holding it as a hedge? Or like right now, central banks hold gold. So if gold gets out of control price-wise, they can try to suppress the price. So because central banks own such a large percentage of the supply.
So Catelyn Long tweeted in his amazing tweet, she actually touched upon that exactly, where she was talking about how it's inevitable that some Bitcoin gets rehypothecated, right? But the key difference is, first of all, there's a known cap that doesn't change, and there's no one to bail you out. There's no one to bail anybody out. There's no big central Bitcoin bank that's like, you made a mistake, here you go. And all these other companies and all these corporations, entities, whatever you want to call them, they're operating under the presumption that, hey, if I make a mistake, big brother, big daddy could just get me out of trouble, which you've seen time and time again. You cannot do that under a Bitcoin standard, right? So I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, they'll try it, right? They'll try to rehypothecate or just play fast and loose with their balance sheet. And then the first time shit hits the fan, only one person owns the real Bitcoins. And then after that, hopefully the market wises up and they say, I don't want your token.
Yeah. So let's see, when you said, because like, to be honest with you, I have not read your paper, but I'm going to. I'm so excited. I didn't even know it existed until you mentioned it just now. But you said something.
That's quite all right.
I'm just being honest. My goosebumps just popped up on my skin, right? Which is, you said within the decade we're going to see something significant, and I completely agree. I think that within this decade you're going to see this major clash between the truth and the old system, right? And I'm so happy to be alive to witness it. It's gonna be scary as hell, but it's really interesting as well. So, man, I'm gonna read your paper tonight, man. So when you said that, I just got so excited.
It's great. It's great, man. And I really enjoyed the book, The Fourth Turning. It's got some very interesting ideas. It's a kind of a framework to understand history and how it can sort of help us understand where we might be going in the future. And Brandon has such a good understanding of it that the piece itself, like after you read it, you don't really need to read the book or listen to the book, honestly. So it's like it's a great summary of the book and then applies Bitcoin within that framework. It's awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it, Brady. I would say though, if you did like the paper, there is still a lot to be gained from the book. But
Sure.
if you feel like you got enough of it, don't read the book. Some people find it dry. I couldn't get enough of it. But if you want more of those ideas, he goes very deep. And to be the first time I read, I felt like I grasped it, but not that well. Like my paper, actually, this was funny. Corey's here. This was during a conversation with Corey talking about the book. He goes, no, Bitcoin's the fifth turning. And, through that conversation, my original thesis of the paper was Bitcoin destroys the cycle. And after spending more time with the material, I actually don't believe that anymore. I actually think that these cycles are very, very low level. These are emergent human cycles that we can't seem to get around. It's like they shouldn't exist, but they do. And so, I thought that was pretty interesting.
So I nearly had a heart attack just now. I thought the stream ended. Clearly it did not. Was I frozen for the last few minutes? What just happened?
Yeah, you just disappeared, and it's cool. We kept rolling. Restream kept it going.
Fantastic. So I have no idea what we're talking about. The fifth turning, sixth turning, but all is well.
Corey, what's your take? What's the fifth turning idea, and what was your take on Brandon's piece?
I mean, I basically cede that territory to Brandon because he thought about it way more than I did. No, I mean, I think it's different, but I bet you every time you went from 4 to 1, it felt totally different. And, maybe we can break free of this and, maybe this one will be a little bit different, or maybe the cycle will be longer. I just, it seems like you would it's just reversion to the mean, right? So the way that you laid it out with, supply versus demand for order, it does make sense that those things would get out of whack. By definition, they would have to. What I do question is, would they always necessarily have to be on this weird 80-year cycle that we've been on for, the last 400 or 500 years or something like that? If you look back further than that, it seems like it breaks down, or it's just not, so there's just not that many data points to think that it would always be like that going forward. The cycles could get longer or shorter, and then you have to layer that across, sort of like a geopolitical landscape and think about, okay, well, we are, relatively globalized right now. We weren't always that way. So 80-year cycles clearly made no sense when China wasn't talking to people in the Middle East, weren't talking to people in England, 600-700 years ago. So we'll see. I think you've got to cross that with, global versus local, and, other things that might happen, whether it's climate or asteroid or whatever else, could be world wars that just make things completely different. Something
Good
like
points.
that. So we'll see. I think that broadly, at the very least, if the worst part of the 4 turnings, was at a certain level, we're leveling up. It should be a step change toward the positive over the next few centuries because Bitcoin exists. So the worst part of that cycle will be better than it would be without Bitcoin.
A couple quick follow-ups.
Higher highs and higher lows.
Sorry, I missed that.
So I guess if I were going to say, so the thing for me would just mean higher highs and higher lows.
That's fair. I could see that. Couple follow-ups. So global versus local, that's a really good point. This is the first cycle where more or less the whole world got synced up together on the heels of World War II. And so we had a global money for the first time ever. We're seeing a lot of countries around the world falling to populism, just like the US is right now. So it really does feel like the whole world synced up. And apparently, I don't know enough about China to make this claim firmly, but apparently China is demonstrating fourth turning tendencies right now also. And so if that's true, the whole world might be synced up, which to me is very scary. It's not going to be an isolated conflict. There's a potential for a very large global conflict. That's pretty scary. And then optimistically on Bitcoin's side, so all previous fourth turnings have been giant total wars. And Bitcoin's unique because it serves as this life raft. And that can be sort of a pressure valve with the conflicts. And so instead of a failed state flailing in desperation and getting deadly, bloody against their own citizens or starting a war, they might be able to just buy some Bitcoin and not have as bad of a problem. Same with the individuals. Individuals can opt out, so they're not starving on the streets when their central bank screws up their currency. There's a long list of these things, but I think this could be the first fifth turning where we don't have a global conflict because Bitcoin just sort of nudges its way into the conversation.
Well, I mean, just to add to that, like the question is, so if Bitcoin were to succeed in an ideal world, it would inevitably shrink government, which would, as a result, make wars less possible, right? So that's the real question. Is Bitcoin going to shrink government? So because Bitcoin empowers the individual, and I don't think the individual is so prone to going to war. It's always a government's idea. It's always the king's idea to go to war. So, that's just a thought.
Yeah, I agree. It sort of ties into the sovereign individual a bit here. And I think that, to be honest, I don't think Bitcoin's going to shrink governments anytime soon. I think that's a couple of generations away, but I think that's definitely the trend. But I just think these things take a very long time.
And in the meantime, we're here, we're educating on Bitcoin, we're pitching people on Bitcoin. So I think this is a perfect time to subject our guests to a form of torture known as the Bitcoin elevator pitch. This is part of what I'm calling today Swan Force Friday. Reminder, go sign up for Swan Force, swanbitcoin.com/enlist. Gentlemen, who wants to go first? We can give you some time to prepare if you need it. 90 seconds to give us your best Bitcoin pitch. Also, if you want to, you could pick someone that you're pitching. Like this, you could say to us, "Hey, I'm going to pitch, my boomer dad," and then give us that pitch. So it could be a targeted pitch if you like. I see no hand.
Okay, I'll go with I guess I'll go with a generalized pitch, and we'll see how that goes. So
give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right, we're going to put you on the clock now.
Okay, here we go.
If I can find the clock. There's the clock. All right. Wait. Oh, yeah, sorry. I'll restart. Go.
Okay, so it's the future of money, okay? It is the most divisible. It's the easiest to transport. It's also the most secure. It's also uncensorable, meaning that the government, cannot confiscate it. They can't make you pay taxes on it because they have no control over it. They can't freeze it as an asset. And you can easily transfer it to anybody else. And it's gray and not very attractive, but it can be transferred across communication mediums all around the world. That's pretty much all I've got.
Nice.
You don't have to use the full time. You don't have to.
40-second bonus. I like it. You get bonus points for not using all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I just tried to stick every single reason I could think of in there.
All right, let's rewind the clock.
Ooh, oh my god, nice graphics there, bro.
On the spot.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you. Let me know when you're ready, and then I'll click go.
All right, I'm ready to go.
All right, go.
All right, so Bitcoin is hope. Bitcoin is the disintermediation of money. Bitcoin is the first asset in human history that you could fully own, that is fully yours, right? So you can cross a border and bring all of your wealth with you. And you have never been able to do that in human history, right? Bitcoin gives you freedom. Bitcoin gives you the capability of not only being your own bank, but owning the bank and making your own rules, right? And Bitcoin actually rewards you for saving. It doesn't hurt you for saving, right? So buy Bitcoin. That's my pitch.
Nice.
Man. Brandon's asking in the chat if there's an obnoxious buzzer at the end.
Yeah.
Brady called me the obnoxious buzzer.
Oh, wait. I messed up. I totally messed up, guys.
You got 35 seconds.
Buy Bitcoin on Swan, okay? Buy Bitcoin on Swan. There we go.
Beautiful. Here, I'm going to fast forward it so that y'all can hear. Oh, that's not bad.
It's not that annoying.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go to like 60 seconds. What do you guys think in the
We
chat?
should definitely do 60 seconds from now on. I agree.
Yeah,
The 1 minute Bitcoin pitch. Something like
I found the video on YouTube. I modified. We did it last
that. We'll get there. We'll get there.
So guys, like my experience, because I've pitched this so much to different people, not this talk, something, right off my head, they look at me like a crazy person, right? Like 99%. You have to be ready to get orange pilled. It's not so much you, it's them, right? They have to be ready to get unplugged from the matrix. Because if not, they're just not ready for the real world. They're not. That's what I've noticed in my experience.
So if I can make a suggestion.
I think that's.
Are we both being polite here? Is that what's happening? Waiting for the other one to talk?
I think
That's
so.
what's happening.
Okay, I will say the comment on that. The comment is, I agree that you have to meet the other person where they are. And typically Bitcoiners come in guns blazing with everything you guys said was great, by the way. I loved it. But if I said that to my mom, she would be like, why would I want to disintermediate the state? Why would I want to own my own money? I have my own money, right? So I think the most important part is meet them where they are and going slow and asking questions. I think the pitch should start with that. Know your audience, ask some questions, where are they coming from? Mm-hmm. And for most people, number go up technology is still the most powerful thing. I think you can also say the human rights angle is pretty powerful. Essentially just pick your archetype and hit them with what's going to work. That's what I would say.
Can I tell you something really interesting that I've noticed? If you pitch Bitcoin to someone who lives in a country that does not control its inflation, they understand it within the first 10 seconds. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to tell them how it works. They just get it, right? So what I've noticed in Western countries, especially the US or countries like that, they look at you, it's like, why do I need that? And in a way, they're actually right. There's really no necessity. But if you look at a country like Venezuela or like Turkey, right, or Argentina, they use Bitcoin to survive. You get what I'm trying to tell you? So I totally agree with your point, but it's very hard to convince someone in a country where everything's peaceful in the moment, right?
I 100% agree that it's more difficult, but I also agree with Brandon in that you do have to latch on to what works for the people you're talking to. And here, even look at Michael Saylor as an example. He in that video we put out a little while ago, one of his famous quote about the ice cube, he's like, I have a mega problem, right? Then he talks about how the ice cube is melting. And if you're talking to your parents, for example, my parents, they're kind of half retired and they want to preserve their money. And, they're not experiencing hyperinflation, but if they're not careful, all their purchasing power will disappear over the next 30 years, So I agree, but I think, especially these days, we can find those reasons to get to people in terms of why they should care about Bitcoin. And asking questions what do you think about the fact that, all this money printing might inflate away your savings over the next 30 years? You don't even have to mention Bitcoin. And then if they have an oh shit moment, then you can bring in the answer to their problem. So there's my
So I just want to, for countries that have typically had a lot of wealthy people like Argentina and Turkey, Bitcoin is actually right now just functioning as another hard asset in the mix. Those families that have wealth have been trained for many generations to not keep much value in fiat because they've gone through so many devaluations. I think Turkey's had 3 or 4 and Argentina's had 4 or 6 in the last century, bad. And so really it's more in Turkey anyway, it's do you buy some Bitcoin or do you buy another apartment to rent out? But they're used to keeping any excess value in something other than fiat. And then I want to chime in on the other one. I'm not going to give a full pitch, but I'm going to talk at least what came to mind for me. They basically, in that in that webinar for the crypto asset forum at the big asset manager, basically hit me like a half hour before, and they were like, some of these people are just like bit curious. You might as well at least spend a little bit of time up front, telling them about Bitcoin, just in case they're tuning in for the first time. And so I hadn't really like prepared my Bitcoin pitch, and I talked to them, the way I thought would work for that audience, which is, and we do a lot of thinking about how to pitch different audiences, and you guys just touched on that. It is important to sculpt it for the audience. So for these people that are, in the finance industry and, thinking about finance and technology and all this stuff all the time, I just went like really, really fact-based. And I just talked about that the smartest people in the world that were working on the internet 30, 40 years ago always assumed that there would be digital cash, and that a lot of people for a few decades had been working on exactly how to send value over the internet without double spending it, and that essentially that problem was identified back in '82, and people cranked away on it and kept on working on it, and finally somebody solved it in 2008, 26 years later. And that, essentially all we're watching is like the deluge of innovation on top of something that, at least some smart people expected to solve that eventually. And that's why you saw it popping up in all kinds of sci-fi books and people talking about it in, Sovereign Individual or Cryptonomicon or, Snow Crash or all these different books. And now we have it. And so while it may have seemed like a fourth quadrant black swan, most of us, it was actually something that a lot of people were working on and expected, or hoped to crack at some point. And now we're just seeing it roll out and sort of have its ripple effects across society. And it's just super early. And that sort of like really fact-based approach, and like not having to make a pitch and not even having to claim it is this other thing other than exactly what it is, and just saying like it's really just explaining exactly what it is. It's just cash that lives on the internet and being able to send value without double spending it. I think it went over really well. I got really, really good feedback on that from that audience anyway.
Yeah, that was a good pitch for that audience for sure. I got to bounce, guys. I got family stuff to go on, but I wanted to let you all know that we have a special Swan Signal Live on Tuesday, Election Day, November 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, with Alex Gladstein and Marty Bent. You can click over to the channel page right now and set a reminder. That's going to be a fantastic one. We're going to talk about the nation's history, the founding principles of the country, where things have gone awry, how Bitcoin might be able to help us kind of reinstate some of those founding principles to this country. And I think that duo, Gladstein and Marty, are going to be perfect for that conversation. So I hope you join us. Thanks all. I'm going to head out.
See you, Brady.
See you guys.
I want to underline Corey's point there. That's a massive point. The fact that you can squash the Bitcoin is MySpace narrative immediately by saying the smartest people on the planet tried to make Bitcoin for like 30 years and they failed over and over and over again. And then finally Satoshi put the pieces together in the right way. And I think that's, couldn't be more important of a point.
I mean, it and just to add exactly to what you were saying, I think that something very unique happened with Bitcoin that no other, for lack of a better word, shiitake coin has been able to do, which is it had a virgin birth. When Bitcoin was created, Satoshi didn't have any idea it would have value, right? So it was completely innocent, right? And every coin since that, they'll claim it's faster, they'll claim it's whatever. Every single founder created it for one reason. They think they're going to get rich, right? And Bitcoin was created just because, right? And it didn't even have value for a significant time until someone decided to buy pizzas. I guess if that story is true or not, right? So, that's it makes it so special, and no one's going to be able to do that, since the genie's out of the bottle, so to speak.
All right, I was muted and answering questions. I 100% agree.
I'm pretty sure the Ripple guys discovered Ripple shooting out of the ground in California, didn't they? It was a very viscous indigo blue color, and then they just captured as much as they could. And now they dump about
How's that dude not in jail?
Order on retail.
How's that dude not in jail? That dude should be in jail. It's
Well,
crazy.
I mean, here's the thing, though. It's like what EOS did. Like, they raised so much money that they can defend against any and all. Like, the government doesn't have. They can print as much money as they want, but like they haven't allocated all that monopoly money to the prosecutors to actually go after these people.
Mm-hmm.
They just scalp on innovation and scalp on people breaking the law. They do the math. They say, how hard is it going to be to win this case versus settle versus our time?
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's exactly
insane.
it.
I mean, it's practical, right? Like, I don't know what the alternative would be. We don't want them to be able to have all power at all times.
I don't know, man. I don't know how the SEC hasn't, called it a security or whatnot. It absolutely blows my mind. Like, especially once you learn about the supply dynamics of Ripple and how they own, I think it's like 80%, and how they actively, dump that on retail to fund their operations. That sounds awfully like a security, but for some reason, I don't know why. And there's crazy people on Twitter that are just holding these massive bags and they're buying into that propaganda. It's absolutely crazy. They're just doing a disservice to the whole space.
It's interesting. Like, whenever I think about this, I have to kind of balance my libertarianism with my desire for, people not to get absolutely screwed by these people like the XRP folks, and it's hard. I don't know what the solution is, other than just education, which is why we do shows like this. So don't buy Ripple, folks. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, well, what I've noticed is that no matter how much you educate, your bags completely cloud your judgment, right? You could bring the most valid points, and if you're holding those bags, you just don't believe it, right? Mm-hmm. So
I had an interesting conversation with a guy who he and his partners are sitting on, several $100 million at least of Bitcoin. And he came into the space because one of his former employees was working at Ripple, and that guy asked him to run a market making operation for Ripple. And he knew nothing about Bitcoin or Ripple or anything else. It was, 7-8 years ago. And so he started, and then he's not a dummy and he's not a bad guy. And he realized that basically he was just helping these guys dump on people they were duping. And he started learning about Bitcoin, and then he got in a fight with the CEO and quit and shut down the desk. And he and his buddies have been like hardcore maximalists since like 2015.
Nice.
I need that story to be out. The guy's like super private, but anyway, I hope that story gets out, and he does some interviews at some point. It's a great story.
That's very cool.
I take great pleasure in the fact that I used to go to this plexiglass supply company here in LA for some artwork I was working on. And right next to their little shop was a Ripple satellite office. And there was parking that said Ripple only. And I always took their parking. And I crashed into their parking sign, and I just screwed it up.
Just put Bitcoin stickers on it.
I think I actually did that once, yes.
Nice.
A Swan and a Bitcoin sticker right next to each other.
Yep. All right, folks. I think we might be getting to that time. I want to ask you, if you have anything to shill, please shill yourselves, because you're awesome, and more people need to be listening to you and watching you and hearing what you have to say. So, gentlemen, where can folks find you?
Phil, do you want to go?
All right, I'll go ahead. So you can check me out on at funwithbitcoin.com, and that has all of the resources for my my personal podcast and anything that I've actually ever done. And
hold up, did I screw up? You guys are Simply Bitcoin, right?
Oh yeah, we're absolutely Simply Bitcoin. But that was the next piece, right? And of course, if you want to come check us out on YouTube, we're Simply Bitcoin.
Hey guys, I'm Nico. You can check out bitvault.com. We host miners. If you don't want to do it at home because your electricity is too expensive, you can go check it out on bitvault.com. And we also host the Simply Bitcoin show. If you want to know what happened with Bitcoin in 10 minutes, it usually goes a little bit over, but you'll enjoy the show. Go check out go check out Simply Bitcoin on YouTube. It's awesome. You get to see me and Phil's pretty face every single day reviewing memes, going over the news, and talking about all the epic fails that all the shitcoiners do day in and day out. It's the gift that doesn't keep on, whatever that saying goes. Anyways, go check out Simply Bitcoin. and also, guys, thank you so much for having us on. We really enjoyed the show. This is awesome, and
totally
I can't
humbled.
wait to go. Yeah, I can't wait to read Brandon's paper, man. That sounded so cool.
Hell yeah. We don't have a physical office, but if we did, we would have an open door policy with you anytime. One more time, Brandon, tell them where to go. BrandonQuidham.com or BrandonQuidham.com/Bitcoin-Rhythms of History. Why should they read the paper? Give them the once over one more time.
They should read the paper because it's in their own best interest. And also, if you're a Bitcoiner, you'll probably like my conclusion. That's that. I'm knee deep in the stuff still. It's my pinned tweet. Interact with it if you're interested. Come say hello. My DMs are open. I'd love to talk more about this. It's a big topic, and I've got lots of blind spots. So call me out where I'm wrong. Pat me on the back if I'm right. And yeah, great to meet you, Nico. First time chatting with you, Phil. A pleasure. Not the first time. Really happy to be chatting with you again. And yeah, thanks for hanging out in the Swan Lounge.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm personally going to give just a shout out to both of those guys because I've been on both of their shows, and it was just like the most fun hanging out in both cases. Nico came out of left field for me. I'd already been aware of Phil and had listened to his show and stuff. And I've probably told like 30 people since I went on Nico's show that's a sleeper and it's awesome. And it's like, everybody should go hang out on that show because it's awesome. And I watch Simply Bitcoin and dip into the chat there sometimes. And I love what you guys are doing. So glad to have you on here. I hope you had fun. Hope you had as much fun here as I do when I go on your shows.
Thank you so much for your support, guys. We really appreciate it.
Likewise.
And we love what you're doing with Swan.
SwanBitcoin.com/Coin Icarus. $10 of free BTC.
I'm terrible shill. Thank you so much, Corey.
Yeah, thank you guys for having on. And Corey, thank you so much for the love. It really means a lot. We really appreciate all the feedback from all you guys. It melts my heart for lack of, I'm excited.
Melting heart, yes. Melting ice cube, no.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Alrighty, folks. So this weekend is the anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. Go do something special. Pour a drink for yourself and for Satoshi, wherever he, she, they are. Couple of things before we close up. Somebody in the chat was asking where they can get all this amazing Swan merch. You can get it at Zazzle.com/SwanBitcoin. And note, they make us take a 5% cut, but we're going to be donating that to Bitcoin development, or maybe we'll put it towards some merch giveaways. But you can go to Zazzle.com/SwanBitcoin for amazing Swan merch. A few other things. The free book, SwanBitcoin.com/free book. Go get it. It's free. What are you doing? Leave the chat right now, but not until you smash that like button. Thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. One more thing, the Bitcoin Arsenal. We love Bitcoin memes. Bitcoin memes help turn the tide. They help us shape and promote important narratives around Bitcoin, and they're a lot of fun. So go to SwanBitcoin.com/Arsenal. Check it out. Don't you guys love how I'm just making these guys just sit here and listen to me shill? It's great. Last but not least, SwanBitcoin.com/dailybuys. Sign up for early access. And subscribe to our channel because we're doing these shows every week, twice a week. We love you all very much. Keep stacking sats. We'll see you next time.